Alright guys, Hayzink here, welcome back to Video Overload, and we have another one on Street Fighter Duel. So, you guys will obviously, hopefully at this point, be aware that Effigy Clash is now available. You can now go in, you can now do your attacks, and you can try and beat the boss. I'm just going to do my offerings here while I remember. Awesome. So, you guys all know, this is a very rewarding mode. You get lots of these tickets. These tickets can get you quite a lot of good things from the shop. So everyone's been excited about it up to this point. But it's changed. It's changed quite a lot actually. We don't know yet if this is a trend, okay? It might be a trend, however, we don't yet know, right? So, if we go into here, I'm not going to gain any XP for doing this, right? But I'm still going to do it, right? Just to go in and show you guys. So if we go in now, you'll see that obviously with this all the time up to this point, you've went in, you fought the boss, you tried to find your best strategy to beat the boss, get your daily rewards. I hope these are still daily, which would be good, to be honest. But you'll notice there's a difference. Now this is going to be dependent on your server, I would imagine, right? I don't know that for sure, but I imagine it is going to be determined by your server. You've got 3 teams, so it means that older players who have been playing the game for a while are going to have potentially a tougher time trying to build teams, trying to figure out the best way to do this, right? Do you know what? See, because I have actually now got the last 2 copies I needed to get them to SSS, I think I'll just throw this guy on here and we'll have a look at how he actually performs. Don't know how he's going to perform, to be completely honest, because hey, I've not built gear for him, I've not built up his fighting spirit, and I've probably not got any cards for him because I sell them all as soon as I get them. But we'll see how he does, right? I don't think he's going to do much here because, like I say, I don't have fighting spirit on him and stuff like that, but for the sake of him being a new unit, we'll throw him on there, just see how he performs. But anyway, yeah, so we now have to do this with 3 teams, which is fundamentally going to make it different, and it's going to make it more difficult for people to gain their highest scores that they can, right? Because obviously with these things, they seem to tune the difficulty based on how many teams you've actually got, right? So it's going to be harder for you to actually build up the kind of high scores that you maybe did in the past, right? Now, does that mean it's a trend? Because if we look at the last few events, we had the Evil Ryu event, which used multiple teams, which I actually think was the first event to do that. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm fairly sure that was the introduction of multiple teams. I'd say I'm like 100%, 95% sure. Someone again can correct me if I'm wrong. And then obviously after that, the next event that we got was the Devil May Cry Redux or whatever the fucking hell it was called. That had multiple teams, and now we've got this boss event for the guilds that now has multiple teams. Does that mean we're looking at a trend? I've had people worried about this. I've had people speaking to me and saying it looks pretty bad, it's making things a bit less free-to-play accessible because free-to-play players don't necessarily have enough built-up units to do 3 teams, so it does make them think that it's starting to be more and more geared towards Wales. Now, what I would say is, it's potentially too early to tell right now. I think we really need to wait till the Goken event comes out to find out if this is a trend or not, because what people need to remember is this is the 3rd time this event has been back, okay? And if they didn't make any changes to it, it would just be the same thing again, right? So for this event, adding in like the 3 team requirement at least gives a bit of variety. It at least makes it different from the multiple times that we've had it before. So it could just simply be them doing something different for this event. So I think it's far too early right now to predict a trend and predict that going forward, all of these events that we get are going to require multiple teams. I just don't think there's enough evidence yet to support that. Might well be it is the case, do not know, but to me it makes sense that they would try and do something different for this one, because the last one, apart from changing how many tickets you got to do your attacks and stuff, it was the same thing, you know? It was the same thing that we had before, so for it to come back again and just be a copy-paste, nothing different, it would show a kind of lack of originality. Now sure, is it that different? Probably not, apart from making it slightly harder depending on which server you're in, because again, if you're in one of the newer servers, I'm going to predict it's exactly like everything else, and you'll only have one team that you have to worry about and focus on. So you might find it's just like previous events. But again, if you're in a newer server, you will not have experienced this event twice already. So again, you don't really need to worry about it being the same old when it comes to rolling out content for people like yourself. So when it comes to strategizing how you're going to beat this boss, honestly, it's going to be very difficult for people to put out guides and say, look, this is the best team to use, that's the best team to use, because really it's going to depend on how many teams you've got to use to actually take on the boss. If you've only got one team, you can put all your power into that team and you can do the best score possible. But when you've got 3 teams, you've sometimes got to be a bit more strategic and maybe split up some of your power units between various different teams so that you can try and get an outcome that is going to be better with the 3 scores combined than if you were just to push on one team and one team alone, okay? Now I can see just now that even just looking at my battle zone just now, I'm only barely ahead, right? But usually you see bigger scores than this, right? You usually see higher scores. People have usually pushed on a little bit further because you can find the time and you can find the knack, you can find the way to just squeeze out that little bit more performance. But again, when you've got to do it for 3 teams, with an event like this, it requires you to use what's the word I'm looking for? A finite currency, so flags. You've not got as much freedom for experimentation, right? You've basically got 3 shots. If you're relying on crits, if your team 2 doesn't crit, what are you going to do? Are you going to quit? Because if you quit, you've lost your flag, right? So it makes it a lot more, I want to say, actually it makes it a lot less RNG dependent, because rather than building teams where you just need one good run where everything lines up with all 3 teams, you're probably better off going in with builds that you know can give you consistent damage, that don't rely as much on crits and crit boosting and all that kind of stuff that you kind of do with typical bosses. So it kind of layers on a different level of strategy, which again is fundamentally going to change how this event plays out versus how the previous ones have played out. The good thing about this event is, really it doesn't matter, to be honest, because these rewards are what you want. These are going to be good for you, they're going to be good for your account growth, they're going to allow you to go into that EFFIGY shop and get the things that you need. And other than that, I mean, when you start facing off against other people, that is when you're going to see kind of the biggest changes to this event, because this is going to be the first time that this event is run since they've changed the battle zones. So not only have they changed how the bosses work, we're about to see changes in matchmaking, okay? So you should see no duplicate battles, and you're going to be facing off against a whole bunch of new guilds who may have recruited better, who may be more active, who may be stronger, and depending on who you are, it might be a lot tougher, but we've already seen one sign of it being tougher with the fact that the boss is now, I want to say, a bit more difficult to deal with, just by virtue of you needing to use more teams. Anyway guys, let me know what you think of the changes down below. Do you think this is going to be a permanent thing? Do you think we're just going to keep seeing multiple team events now? Do you think this is a way that they are trying to implement people summoning for more units? Putting focus on building units that maybe they haven't done in the past? What do you think the play is here? Why do you think they've done this? Let me know in the comments down below. Most of you will probably say money, because everything's motivated by money, isn't it? But yeah, I've been Hayzink, thanks for watching, and whenever the next one is, I will catch you on it. Peace.